So in order to get downloads on the App Store, you basically need to do just a few things. You need to get impressions for your app in search results, you need to convert those impressions into downloads, and you would think that would be the last step, but unfortunately there is a third one, is to get new ratings for your app, because more new ratings your app gets, higher App Store ranks you in search results for pretty much any keyword that you want to target. I'm not an expert in those things, but I just want to share with you what I learned so far in about a year of having an app on the App Store and how I approach those 3 steps in details. Starting with impressions, the easiest way to get impressions is of course to buy them with ads on App Store itself or on Instagram, for example, but for most indie developers it's not a viable option, especially when you're just getting started and launching your first app. Fortunately, that's not the only way to get impressions, and in my experience it's not even the most effective way to get impressions. The most effective way is ASO, basically optimizing your app's metadata like title, subtitle, description, screenshots, icon, all of that stuff, which might sound easy and not like a lot to do, but there are quite a few nuances, and I see a lot of developers get it wrong on the first try, and I definitely got it wrong the first time as well. Your app's title is probably one of the most important pieces of metadata, and by far the biggest mistake I see a lot of especially indie developers make is that they want their app title to be very clean. Ideally this would be just an app name and that's it. This is of course a huge mistake, not only from just ASO algorithm optimization perspective, but also from a human psychology perspective as well. Like imagine when people searching for apps on the App Store, they're not looking for your app specifically most of the time. They have some problem in their life and they thinking maybe there is an app that would help to solve that problem. They are using some keywords that describe that problem, and most often it's not your app's name. So if your app title misses those keywords or something relevant to that, of course you won't rank that high. So the structure of your title should be the most important, the most relevant keyword in the beginning, and then your app's name. And the order of words is also important here, because with any metadata on the App Store, algorithm gives more weight to the words in the beginning, which also makes sense from a human perspective. When we are searching for stuff and scanning search results, we most often pay most attention to the words in the beginning. Now, what is that the most important keyword that I mentioned? I will talk about my exact keyword research process in a bit, but for now I want to mention one thing, is that when I was just starting launching my app, I made the mistake of thinking that the most important keyword that I should put in the title is the most popular keyword. My app is a habit tracker, so I thought, okay, habit tracker is a popular keyword, I need to put it in the title. And like obviously what happened is that I think the highest ranking I got for that keyword was 170 something position, so basically invisible. So definitely the most important keyword is not the most popular keyword unless you're in a very specific niche with low traffic, but in general the most important keyword is the keyword where you stand a chance of ranking high in search results. The keyword that has a good balance between competitiveness and popularity. And whatever keyword you choose to put in the title, always aim to be in top 10 search results for that keyword, because top 10 is usually when you start to see any meaningful results in terms of downloads and impressions. Anything lower than that, you can be in like 15, 20th position, and it sounds like high enough, but in reality no one really scrolls that far in search results. And also don't be afraid to switch that keyword in the title once in a while. If you see that your app is getting new ratings but you're not climbing in search results and ranking for that keyword, that means it's just too much competition. Try to find something more niche and put it in the title, and maybe once your app gets more ratings, more users, you can come back and try again with that previous keyword, but for time being you need to focus on something less popular. So in order to find those balanced keywords with good popularity and competitiveness ratio, you need to first know those popularity and competitiveness scores, right? And briefly, if you don't know, there are a ton of different services for App Store search optimizations, and all of those services provide you with keyword research tools, and they all give you those popularity and competitiveness scores. Unfortunately, most of those services are pretty expensive. It can get to hundreds of dollars per month easily, and of course for indie developers who are just getting starting out, it's not really viable to spend that money upfront. I use Astro. It's one of the most reasonably priced one. It's like $100 per year, and it has a good value to price ratio, I think, and I see a lot of other indie developers use it. Not sponsored, by the way, or anything. If you don't want to spend any money whatsoever on your at least initial keyword research, some of those expensive services give you a free trial. Like for example, App Figures give you a 7-day free trial without any limitations on keywords that you can enter. So that's a great strategy when you're getting started. So once you have one of those tools for keyword research, from here it's a bit messy process. You just need to brainstorm and think about use cases for your app and what kind of problem it solves and how people might describe that problem in order to find similar app like yours. If you're indie dev, there is a high chance that you're building your app for yourself, so you probably know the problem space quite well and you can come up with those high-level keywords pretty easily. And LLMs is like a perfect tool here. Give your app's description to ChatGPT or whatever you prefer and ask it to come up with as many use cases that users might have for your app as possible. Then you kind of go back and forth, brainstorm the keywords together, you come up probably with a huge list of those keywords, you take all of them, put in the keyword research tool like Astro or whatever you've got, see what is the balance between competitiveness and popularity, and hopefully you will find at least a few keywords that have some potential. About the placement of keywords, so the title I already talked about. The most important, the most relevant keyword that you think has the most potential should go in the title, in the very beginning of the title specifically. Then less promising keywords should go in the subtitle and everything else go into the keyword list. One important thing here is that you don't duplicate your keywords between the title, subtitle and the keyword list. Your natural instinct could be that, okay, if some keyword is so important, I should put it in as many places as I can, but in reality, if you do that, you will dilute the importance of that keyword and App Store search algorithm won't assign as much weight to it as it could. One other problem that you might have, especially if your app is in a very broad niche like my habit tracker, you can come up with too many good keywords that you want to try and there is just not enough space between title, subtitle and keyword list to try all of them. If you're targeting US stores specifically, one trick that you might try is to put all of those extra keywords in different localizations. So the most important keywords that you think are the most promising should still go into US localization. Everything else that you want to try and you have some kind of gut feeling about them, you can put in 10 different localizations and App Store will index them and will rank you for them. I tried it myself. I put some niche keywords in like English, Canada localization, and basically the next day my app started to rank for them. On the other hand, there is another opposite strategy, is that instead of using a lot of keywords and putting them in different places like different localizations, you use only the most important, the most focused keywords that are most relevant to your app, and you might not even use all of the space in all of those metadata fields. This way App Store algorithm will assign all the weights that it has for all of your keywords only to those like handful 3-5 keywords. And I've seen stories that people saying that that strategy worked better for them. For me personally, I tried it as well, and in my case the strategy with having lots of keywords in different places worked better. I think it's also because my app isn't in this very broad category. If your app is very niche, targeting some specific single use case, then you might try this focused approach with keywords. Now, hopefully with all that effort, with your metadata optimization, your app now gets consistent impressions in search results, and now you need to convert those impressions into actual downloads. And the most important things in terms of conversion to downloads are your title, your icon, and the screenshots. title we already covered, so now I want to tell you how I approach designing icon and my screenshots. In my experience, screenshots are more important because they naturally have more surface area on your app's product page and sometimes even in search results, but icon is still very important because that's pretty much the first thing that catches user attention when they see the lists of search results. Designing an icon is kind of inherently creative and almost artistic process, at least to me. I cannot give you some fixed steps to come up with a good icon, but I can show you my approach and maybe give you some basic rules. Actually, no, one shortcut that I can give you is that if you have absolutely no clue how to design an icon, your best chance would be go to official Apple design resources. There is an app icon template there. Then pick some color that you like and make it like a subtle gradient. Then go to SF Symbols app, pick some symbol that is more or less relevant to your app use case, take that symbol, put it on the gradient, and that would be your app icon. But that's like really for just emergency use cases. Now, how I approach designing icons, I usually design it at the very end, close to the app's release, but during designing the main UI, I kind of have vague ideas that I want to try as an icon. It might be some clever metaphor to the app's use case, or if an app has some prominent UI element, I might try to use it as an icon. Now, what I'm usually not sure about is the visual style, like is the object on the icon should be 3D or flat? Should I use gradient for the background or not? What kind of color should I use? This kind of stuff. At that point, I just go and look for inspiration in other apps, in other icons. iOS icongallery.com is a great research, or I just go to Dribble, type app icon and see what I find there. But again, I'm not looking for like bluntly steal someone else's icon. I just look for some details that I might like. In this icon, I like some metaphor maybe. In that icon, I like some colors or some visual style. And then I combine everything with my ideas. And then there is this tedious process of iterating on some idea and maybe abandoning that idea altogether and starting with a new one. So don't be afraid to throw the first version or first couple of versions of your design and start from scratch. That's how usually good design is made, but at the end, if you iterate for long enough, you will come up with something that at least you like, which is in this case is good enough, because if you like it, there is a good chance that some other people will like it as well. And to give you some examples, here is an app that I started and went pretty far into design and development process, but I eventually never released it, abandoned it altogether. But here is a page with some icon iterations. Here I collected some inspirations that I liked, some colors and gradients, and then I just started with one idea, switched to another, iterated on a couple of variants, then switched to something completely different, and then tried some crazy stuff as well. Eventually I landed on these two icons, which again I never used because the app was never released, but I'm kind of saving them because I still like them, so I might use them in a different app. One practical tip I want to give you is to always design your icon in the context of a real kind of environment. So here, for example, I'm always designing on a real iPhone's home screen with real wallpaper and surrounded by other apps icon with app title. This gives you a more tangible feeling of how the icon will look like on the actual phone screen. And the second thing, it's also useful to test how your icon will look in search results. So this app was about widgets, so you see I opened App Store, search for Widgetsmith to get some widget related app in search results, and then I replace the icon with my app just to see whether it has enough contrast, whether it's colorful enough, and whether I need to adjust something. Another example is the first version of the icon for checker. You see again I'm designing in the context of the real iPhone home screen, and all of those icons are actually 3D scenes in Blender, so there are cameras and lights, all of that 3D stuff. I thought it looked nice, but then I realized it's a bit too crowded, so I replaced it with pretty much the same icon layout and same idea, but in 2D and much simpler. And then eventually I replaced it with yet another icon, which I also came up with after a bunch of iterations. To give you some basic fundamental rules, Keep it simple, don't overcrowd the icon, don't use text because it's not really readable on that size, and make sure to test it on dark mode, on tinted mode, home screen, and recently with iOS 26 also in clear mode as well. Now to the screenshots. As I mentioned, they play probably the biggest part when it comes to converting from impressions to downloads. And broadly, there are three things that you need to consider when designing screenshots. First is what kind of features you show on the screenshots. Second is the overall visual style of the image. And most often these days, what kind of copy you use somewhere around the screenshots. Now, when it comes to presenting your app on the screenshots, obviously you need to highlight the best features of your app, but also make sure that you're using some real world or close to real world data so that people who are looking at the screenshots can relate to their use case. And also, if you're localizing your app for different countries, make sure you pay attention to stuff like locations on the map, currencies, maybe photographs of some real places in the world. Make sure those things are from the countries where the screenshot will be presented, again, so that people can relate as much as possible. I personally like that screenshot style where there is nothing but the app screen without device bezel, without marketing copy, nothing. But unfortunately, because very few apps on the App Store use that style, it gives kind of this low effort vibes, and I suspect it won't convert that well, but maybe I need to A/B test the theory at some point, maybe it will. So for my screenshots, I go for the next best thing is just device bezel, the screen of the app, and some copy at the top. I recently switched from this marketing value copy that everyone recommends to use to this more straightforward, just describing features of the app and then showing the screenshot. I think that marketing copy kind of oversells and at this point looks even a bit cheesy, so I A/B tested both variants and I see that they perform pretty much the same, so I'm sticking with more straightforward feature copy that I like personally better. But in that A/B test there was one unexpected result. You see, I have this screenshot with social proof. It's just nice reviews for my app on the App Store. I decided to include some of them and put them on the screenshot. Initially, I kind of felt a bit weird about it, so I put it at the end, so it doesn't feel like I'm bragging that people like my app and stuff. So I put it in the end, probably no one ever saw it. And with this A/B test, I decided to test the theory, like how effective this screenshot is. In one of the treatments, I moved it to third or fourth position, so much closer to the beginning, and I saw a dramatic increase in conversion. So those social proof screenshots definitely work. If you can get some social proof for your app, definitely use this technique. One more practical thing about the screenshots: make sure that your first or second screenshots include something eye-catching, like some unusual graphics or bright color, because sometimes in search results App Store decides to show a couple of screenshots of the app, and it's very useful to have something there that grabs user attention. And on the same topic of grabbing users' attention in search results, make sure that you prepare an in-app event every time you release a major version of your app. It takes just extra few minutes to prepare some nice screenshots and descriptions, and then you will have much more real estate in search results, and it's a really nice way to stand out among competition. Now, with all of that work done, hopefully some people start to download your app, and this is in a bit awkward place because now you need to start to ask them for ratings. I understand it's not an ideal user experience to see that annoying pop-up, but unfortunately that's the reality of the App Store. New ratings is the currency there. The more new ratings your app gets, higher it will rank in search results. And as a developer, you basically have two choices: either to show the pop-up, and yes, your users will have minor inconvenience, but your app will grow and you will have more motivation to develop it further, or you don't show that pop-up, you don't get new ratings, and your app will slowly die. I don't think anyone will benefit from this scenario. But just make sure to ask for ratings in the right way and in the right moment. By the right way, I mean just use the standard Apple API for showing this annoying pop-up, it takes into account things like whether or not user has already gave you rating, so if you call it multiple times, they won't annoy users anymore. And by the right moment, I mean just find a good positive action where user achieves something or solves some problem in their life using your app, and then ask for ratings. But make sure not to ask for ratings in the beginning or in the middle of the action. This will be just annoying. Make sure you wait until user is done, then ask for rating. And in my experience, most of the people either just dismiss this pop-up or they give you 5-star rating and then just move on. One other place people recommend to use to show this ratings dialog is right after the in-app purchase, when people unlock the full version of your app. I tried it briefly, didn't like the whole user experience, because if you think about this, first people see your paywall, which is already kind of annoying, then they go through the whole payment process with Apple UI, and after all that is done, you show up again with your ratings dialog. So to me, it felt a bit annoying, so I scrapped that. I've also tried a couple of methods to artificially boost my ratings. First one was the App Advice Apps Gone Free. If you don't know, there is this website App Advice, and they have special category Apps Gone Free, where they publish a few applications every day that give away the full versions of their app for completely free. So I published there was a huge spike in downloads, and my whole plan was just to get some more ratings so that my app started to rank organically better in search results. And it partially kind of worked. From I think 5,000 downloads, I got plus 100 ratings, which is kind of a lot, because to get 100 ratings organically, it takes a lot of time. But then I started to see some weird thing that Apple started to remove those ratings, and I think out of that 100 ratings, I ended up with 10 or 15 ratings. So whether or not it was kind of worth it to give away my app for 5,000 people for 15 ratings, I'm not sure. What worked much better in my case is to run those small giveaways on Reddit. I just generated a bunch of promo codes for lifetime unlocks, posted on Reddit, and just asked if you get the promo code, please give me a review or rating, and people usually more than happy to do that. Let me know in the comments if I'm doing something wrong or not doing something important from all of those things that I described. But that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Cheers.